effective and working Zoom system for any future meetings. I would like to,
No, I'm not,
ready?
no.
Any
I'm
other
ready.
Zoom issues? Okay, I'd like to call the meeting to order. The first item is a list or quorum check. Can each of the board members please shout out whether they are here and available? Jim?
Jim Crasher here.
Great. Tim?
Paul Kolniak here.
Paul's here.
Yes.
Tim's here. CJ?
Yep.
Is that a yes, CJ? Yes, good, thank you. Great. Okay, we have a quorum. Second, we have proof of notice. That went out on Friday, so that is done. Okay. Next topic is first of all, let me tell everybody that yes, based on the amendment that was signed into law by DeSantis a couple of weeks ago, we will now be recording. Yes, we will be recording. Hit record. We will be recording our board meetings going forward from call to order to adjournment, and they will be posted on the B&Tc website for access by
Recording in
any
progress.
owner. Thank you. And they will be posted on the website for all owners to have access to them. We'll try and get it up, within the next week. We're doing a number of updates to the website in the next week or so. Secondly, I want to note for everyone the email that went out yesterday to all owners, yesterday morning, stating that we will be returning to our regular and approved policies and procedures concerning board meetings. These policies and procedures were attached to the email, they were circulated, they're available on the website. If anybody needs a copy of them, please feel free to let me know, happy to get it to you. One is the Board of Director meeting procedures, which details exactly how questions are asked by owners and what procedure you go through during a board meeting. The second is our code of conduct, which we will expect everyone to follow so that we have a nice, professional, and appropriate meeting. In addition, this means that the process we go through for questions during board meetings are that there is an early sign-in sheet. Any owner that has a question signs up for that question and tells us what topic it's under. As the relevant topic is reached during the meeting, the president will call on the owner to ask their question. We are allowing single questions from owners so that all owners have a chance to ask a question during the meeting if they would like to. If owners have multiple questions, or if there are general questions that aren't addressed during the topics not addressed during the meeting, there is a owner question period after the adjournment, which will last for 30 minutes, where you'll be called on to ask your additional questions. If any owner has multiple questions, they want to discuss something in detail, they want to spend some time learning why the board is doing something in a certain issue, we are all available to talk to you at any time. And I will be staying after this meeting as long as you would like, to be able to answer any questions or talk about any issues you would like to have more information about. The purpose of this board meeting is to try and give the board an opportunity to impart information to all of the owners in the most efficient way possible, to let the owners ask specific questions about the information the board meeting is covering, and to make the necessary decisions. We're hoping that by following these approved policies, we will get back to being able to do that more efficiently. And I would like at this point to thank the many owners that reached out by email, supporting this change in our approach, and the hope that we'll be able to impart the information of the board with more clarity using this. Thank you. Okay.
Hey, Marilyn?
Yes.
Marilyn, there's still a lot of people who still can't get on the meeting.
If you get any emails, can you tell them to look on their email for the new link? That's probably the
did.
problem.
They're still trying and they can't get on.
Is it maxed out at participants? No.
Well, I'll tell you what, Paul, we are recording the meeting right now, so feel free to tell everyone that if for any reason they have difficulty getting in, they can see the meeting and review the recording as soon as possible on the website. Okay,
Okay.
great. The President's report. What I'd like to do at this point is try and give some clarity to everybody on what our financial position is currently. There's a lot of numbers running around and have been for a number of years. There's a lot of confusion as to where we are financially. So I'd like to spend this report sort of making that as clear as possible based on the information we have as of today. Understand, we are working hard to get additional information, and I'll highlight that as I go through. First of all, to make sure everybody understands, our budget that we set for every year that covers our operating expenses is supported by your quarterly assessments. So the money that's coming in on quarterly assessments is paying for operating expenses. We don't have an issue there. Being able to continue to operate will be an ongoing thing that we do and is not an issue at any time. However, for unusual expenses, which we've seen quite a number of in the last 5 years, to cover those in the last 5 years, past expenses, we have received approximately $36 million in insurance cash, okay? Most of this money will go to pay LHR for the work that they have done repairing the buildings after Hurricane Ian. In addition, we have spent approximately $18 million doing the balcony repair work and the painting. Most of that, or actually all of that, will be covered by special assessments. Most of those assessments have already been activated. The last set of invoices from Custom Paint for the work that was done in Building 5 will be talked about later in this meeting, and that will be handled by special assessment, that cost. In addition, we have about $4 million that accrued over time for hurricane expenses that needed to be done that were not covered by insurance. 2.9 million of that was covered by the hurricane first assessment. So the bulk of that money has been paid. Pulling all those together, we have invested $58 million in these buildings. We have a lot of capital assets that are in their first year or two, which is great. And in a lot of ways, we're ahead of a lot of other condominiums in the state of Florida now. Okay, the current picture, so the future-looking expenses, which is the hardest one to do. We currently have what we call the Phase 1 project. The Phase 1 project plan and the expenses associated with that are on the website. So you can go in at any time and look at them. Gordon will be giving us an update today on that plan, and we will be posting the new updated report and project plan and costs as well. So anytime you want to know what's going on with that, you can look at the website. That has a cost of $1.7 million. That is all the cosmetic and safety work that needs to be done. The atriums, the landscaping, the sidewalks being fixed, the cement being poured around the buildings that we lost, all those final look and feel and use things that need to be done. Currently, we have RFPs out to general contractors to do that work. We have proposals are going to be back on the 23rd of July, and work will start on August 11th. Our current target date to complete all of that work is as early as possible in the fall. And as a matter of fact, we have asked the contractors that are bidding that how quickly they can get the work done will be one of the deciding factors for this work, for who we choose to do the work. In addition, we have the structural integrity report requirements. As everybody knows, the state of Florida required a structural integrity report to be done in June 1st. And you basically had any structural issues that you had to be fixed before the end of the year. Our report, fortunately, was not that bad because we had done a lot of our structural work already. Under that report, we are required to replace all 5 roofs. They were found to be at 0 life. So we need to replace all 5 of the roofs, and we have an RFP for that that's gone out already. That RFP is being responded to on the 23rd of July, and work will start in early August on that. That has a cost of estimated cost of $1.8 million based on the earlier quote we got from LHR for this work. The unknown there cost-wise is that once you take the roofing materials off of the roof, you are finally able to see the concrete deck that the roof is built upon. If there are repairs to that concrete deck that need to be done, that additional cost will be identified then. There's no way to know that ahead of time. Okay. The third thing that we are required to do under the structural integrity report is, actually second, is the stairways in building 1, 2, and 3. They need repair work done, most of the railings, and the estimate cost there from the report, which by the way, the structural integrity report is on the website, so you can read all of this information anytime you want as well. The cost there is estimated at $60,000 per building, and we have 3 buildings, 1, 2, and 3 that has to be done for, so that's $180,000. That has to be done before the end of 2025, because it's in the milestone report, the milestone section of the report. The third thing is, hang on a second, the third thing is the interior walkways of all 5 buildings. The structural integrity report states that we basically need to sand them down, waterproof them, and repaint them. It's time. So that doesn't have to be done until the end of 2026, so we have a year and a half to get that done. And that, the report estimates at a cost of $2 million for all 5 buildings, okay? The final cost that we are tracking in the immediate future is to do a hurricane prevention approach. Buy some panels, get some security on the buildings so that we don't have to worry as much when hurricanes are coming. We will go into that in a lot more detail later in the meeting. However, at this point, we can use the quote we got from Flood America at $335,000 as an estimate for that cost. We will have to put sump pumps in the rooms as well, and we're working on what that cost will look like. Adding all of these features together, we are looking at a cost of approximately $6 million spread out over the next 2 years. The advantage is, at that point, we should be done. We really have done everything we need to do under the structural integrity report. We've done everything that we need to do as far as any other hurricane issues that have hit. And our assets will all be basically at 1 to 3 years as far as the term of life. So we will have time to build up reserves correctly going forward so that we don't have to have special assessments in the future. Hang on a second, hang on a second. The sources of funding, which is, let me just finish it, yeah.
Okay. She's gonna cover it.
Sorry, I'm talking so much.
I know color.
Okay, sources of funding for all of this work, the $6 million that we still need to pay. We currently have we started the year with $2.2 million in our reserve funds, okay? Because the insurance and other special assessments are paying to replace the assets, we have not tapped that reserve fund amount. We have it available. With the amendment that DeSantis just passed, we now have 2 additional years to build up our reserve funds as needed, which buys us more time to use assessment money, regular quarterly assessment money, to build reserves to the levels that we need them. We also, of course, have most of our assets at year 1, so we're starting out nice and clean. So we have the ability to tap some of that $2 million to start phase 1, to start the roofs, to get moving on some of the things that we need to move on. In addition, we have hired forensic accountants. Okay, so we've spent $58 million in the last 5 years. Unfortunately, we don't have a really good idea of how that was spent from an invoicing perspective. So we finally hired a team of forensic accountants that started 2 weeks ago. They are reviewing every change order, every contract, every invoice, every supplement across the board on the entire $58 million. And they are going to be able to tell us which invoices have to be paid, which should be in dispute, and we have held back invoices so that if we have a dispute, we can count it against that amount. And if there will be any cash left over from the insurance cash once we've finished paying all the invoices that we have to pay. Hopefully, and we won't know until the forensic accountants finish their work, but hopefully we will have some insurance cash available to us as well to try and help us get through the last $6 million that we need to pay. In addition, we are looking into financing options. One of the things that the state of Florida is realizing is that this is a very expensive law to have passed for condominiums. So they are encouraging low-interest loans for condominiums so that they can finance some of these expenses and costs. We have looked into loans. So far, we have identified a 60-month loan for about $3 million that we can get for 6%. 6% isn't bad, 5 years, spreads the payments over time, not a bad option. However, we decided not to move forward yet or discuss it in detail with you guys yet, because we are hoping that with the state of Florida pushing so hard for low-interest loans, that better loans will become available over the next 2 or 3 months. So if we can get a 4% loan, a 2% loan, I would recommend it highly. I would think that would be a great idea to do rather than more special assessments. However, we will continue to work on that prong of financing and bring that to all the owners to consider as we keep looking. The 4th option for funding is the wind insurance dispute. As everyone is aware, we feel that there's $7 million more of coverage that the wind carriers should have paid to us. And we have been in discussions with them for almost 12 months on this issue. I spoke with the attorney that's handling it yesterday, and we are done discussing the information. Our next response to the wind carrier will be that we're finished. These questions, also the questions have gotten a little ridiculous. So we are driving for a settlement negotiation and trying to get them to the table to figure out what we can settle at as a number that the wind carrier will pay to avoid going to litigation on this issue. I will let you know how that proceeds. That one's an unknown. It's very difficult to know what we will end up with funds, what funds we will end up with at the end of that process. Finally, of course, is the special assessment. the last thing we want to do. So if we cannot get funds through any of these other sources to cover the entire $6 million, and we will use every source we can to bring that number down as far as we can before we consider special assessments, then we will move to special assessments. The one exception to that is the balcony work. The balcony work has been handled by special assessments from the beginning and will be handled that way through the end, just to be fair to all owners. So there is a final set of final set of invoices that needs to be covered with special assessments, and Jim will cover that in more detail in his presentation at the board meeting today. So as I say, the only bright side about the difficult last 5 years and the expense that we have had to put forward is the fact that we're ahead of most condos in the state of Florida. We've gotten our structural work done at a time when we could get it done without a lot of demand around us, and we have paid most of the bills. So at this point, we need to move forward with the $6 million necessary for the next 2 years, get that funded in the most effective way possible for owners, and then sit back and enjoy the fact that our buildings are fine and that we can just enjoy them for a while. Okay, moving on the agenda, and as I say, questions will be addressed in the new business and the old business section that have been signed up for ahead of time. Any questions you may have that you think of during the meeting, you can feel free to come to me after the meeting. I'd be happy to answer you. Yeah, great, thank you. All right, treasurer's report, Paul.
I think Marilyn has touched on a bunch of the items that I was gonna talk about, but, what I can do is give you an update on, all our cash assets. Right now, we have over $1 million in our operating fund. We have approximately $2.3 million in reserves. As far as the insurance account, we have about $3.9 million. If you add up all those accounts together, we have a little over $7 million in cash in all our accounts. Outstanding collections, there are 7 owners who are behind, and that totals up to about $323,500 roughly. Those are all in collections or in foreclosure. We still have approximately $3.9 million roughly on open HR invoices. Many of those are in dispute with LHR, which is why we have the forensic accounting taking care of them, going through all the invoices and payments. The next largest invoice we have is for our insurance. That's due this month, and that's around $77,000. I think that's pretty much it for the overview of our finances. Move on to the manager's report.
Hi, I'm Glenn Zier. I'm the new on-site CAM here, and although I've had a CAM license for years. I've been a property manager for over 20 years at 2 properties for 12 years in Hawaii and 6 years at a property on Gulf Shore Boulevard. As you know, there are many significant issues here at the Beach and Tennis Club, so I had a lot to learn, so I just asked everyone to be patient with me.
And we'd like to welcome Glenn to join our group and look forward to working with him.
Thank you.
Okay, Paul, it's back to you again for an update on the forensic accounting effort. Hey, Paul, you're muted. You need to unmute.
So we had a meeting with FCA yesterday. I can give you a quick update on what they've been doing. So they originally were slated to start on June 21st, but because of the CAM issue that we had, they started a couple days late, so their actual start date was on June 24th. We have provided access to them to the HOA website so they can go through and take a look at all the change orders and contracts, to the Sandcastle OneDrive. Sandcastle has information on there, and also to Strong Room for all the invoicing that was done by LHR. They have signed a confidentiality agreement. We have that in place now. They have met with Gordon Knapp on a number of items that they had questions on. So far, they reviewed 36 LHR invoices, 41 of the change orders that have been numbered. There are 5 change orders that were not numbered. 45 check payments to us from our insurance carriers. There was also 3 official estimates from LHR that they reviewed, and over 65 of the G702 and G703 forms that were provided by LHR. They did note that, at least on their overview right now, that they've noticed a couple inconsistencies, but they still need to go through and review more information to see whether those inconsistencies are there or not. Their next steps is to finalize the inventory of all the existing documents and determine if they have any missing documents, any missing invoices or change orders. They're going to work with Sandcastle on any more OneDrive updates with them. Review the invoice amounts for overhead and sales tax accuracies, and cross-reference the invoices, the payments, and the change orders to see if there's any anomalies amongst those. So that's what they're working on now. They hope to be finished, at least as far as the schedule, by the time the end of the month rolls around, depending on what information if they need more information, or if they found anything else that they have questions on. I think that pretty much sums it up, doesn't it, Marilyn?
Yeah, that's good, Paul, thank you very much. Let me add one feature to your update as well from yesterday's meeting. We have asked the forensic accountants, once they have all of the documents in place, once they've done their initial analysis, that they have what they need, to focus first on the wind issues, because of course that's where most of our disputes are, and probably most of the money issues will arise. LHR is also ready and would like to talk about the wind invoices first, so we will cover that issue first. The second will be a broad look at the flood invoices, which are much more voluminous, I guess is a good way to phrase it, and making sure that those are all correct and accurate and what needs to be paid, and address any disputes that are associated with that. The third prong will be custom paint, and looking at all the custom paint invoices and making sure of any overlap with LHR, as well as independently, whether we have any issues with the custom paint work that was done at $18 million. So just to let everybody know, that's the order that we've asked the forensic accountants to function based on. We lost him again.
Okay.
Thank
Everybody
you.
can still see it.
Oh, you're sharing? Okay. So anyway, thank you, Paul, very much. We had one question from Angela on forensic accountants. Did you want to go ahead and do your one question at this time? By the way, mention who you are and what unit you are from.
My name's Angela Broski, and I own 2702 and 3304. I had several questions about the forensic, but we'll stick with the one.
Thank you.
Are they beginning in the 25 and moving backwards, or are they starting at the beginning and moving forward? Because I think that that's an important note at this point.
Do you want me to answer that, Paul, or?
Yeah, you can go ahead.
Okay. What we have asked the forensic accountants to do is to build the entire base of source documents. We've had a lot of conversations over the years of the way people think things have happened here and there and what issues might be addressed. We know we have a lot of credits that were associated with the insurance for things that we didn't rebuild, for example, the restaurant. We have asked these forensic accountants to sit down looking at the original contracts, the original change orders, the actual invoices, the actual work done, and build us the correct factual base to understand what we have to pay for and what we don't. So we are not starting at 2025 and going back. We're actually asking them to build the entire source document base so that we can build what our issues are and what disputes we have based on the facts of the documents.
That's a lot of material.
I know, and that's why they're working very hard for us.
And do we have a
That's
budget?
one question, only one question, sorry, Angela.
So we have no budget.
Okay, so moving on, we have, now Robert Curry, is he online or in the room? Robert Curry?
He was unable to get on tonight.
Okay, well, we'll follow up with him on this question then. Okay, Linda Slater, okay,
I told him it would be recorded, his questions
Yeah.
were given to you.
and he can always reach out to the board members, yep. Okay, update, okay, I have the next item, which is the hurricane prevention plan for 2025. And I need to talk to both the Zoom and to you guys, so I'll go back and forth a little bit, I apologize. As everyone knows from the June 4th board meeting, we voted to move forward with Flood America's flood panels as described and as noted, and I believe as we loaded up on the website, but if not, I'll make sure they are loaded up on the website. The plan to install 56 panels across our 5 buildings to prevent surge flooding if we have the same incident happen again as happened in Ian and last year, of course, with Milton. Jim very helpfully raised a question that he thought might still be outstanding concerning the possibility that enclosing our buildings with these panels might cause some damage to our floors with cement buckling. We voted to move forward based on researching this question that Jim had raised. So we went and researched it. We determined that in actual fact we did not have a floor cement buckling issue, that was not a concern. However, in doing that research, we were able to find out that over the last 12 months, use of these panels has raised an issue that we now need to look into. And that is that when you attach these panels to columns, and in our case, just about all the panels will be attached to columns, because of the placement of our columns. When you attach these to the columns, and if you have waves crashing on the wall, our buildings are designed that if a wave crashes hard enough at the wall, the interior cement blocks between the columns will break off and flow away. The idea being not to damage the columns, so your building stands and you don't end up with an entire structural problem. The panels attaching to these columns will break away as well, but they will damage the columns as they do it. So given that, we are doing an engineering report and hiring an engineer, it's about $6,000, to analyze our columns. The strategy is the engineer looks to see how the building is designed, how strong the columns are, how the water will flow, and tells you how tall a panel you can support. Everybody can do 3.5 feet. That is not a problem. That's approved by any engineer across the board. If you're gonna go to 5 feet, if you wanna go to 7 feet, like in our case, the engineer will tell you if that will cause you potential structural problems. Here's the irritating part about this. You only run into this problem if you have waves crashing on your buildings. Rising water does not cause the problem. So the surge we had with Ian, where the water rose for 10 feet, is not gonna cause this problem. It's only if we have waves crashing on the walls of the buildings, which we've not had, as far as I can find out, for 40 years.
Right.
However, we've identified the issue. It's a known issue. We need to get an engineering report to tell us whether we have a problem or not. So given that, the decision was made that there was no way we could move forward with the hurricane panels for this season. We'll move forward with them for next season. We're gonna spend the time getting it done. We also have a permitting requirement now that will probably take a number of months to get done. So we're gonna move forward with getting the panels and getting them installed for next year, assuming our engineering report comes back correctly. So in the meanwhile, we need to come up with a hurricane prevention plan for this year. So what we are doing is we have had a number of meetings about it. We are looking into buying corrugated metal panels, you know, the corrugated metal panels that everybody puts up on their screens. We're going to put systems in to be able to bolt them immediately on, and we are looking into pricing and how long it takes to get these things. We're also going, of course, these corrugated panels will be caulked, you'll have tape around them, anything we can do to make them as secure as possible to keep water out. In addition, we will be working on getting sump pumps, especially into the critical rooms, which are the generator room, the electric room, and the FPL room. So we will be getting sump pumps into those rooms, and we will be getting panels at least onto the critical rooms of each building. And if the cost isn't too bad, we'll try and get the entire 56 openings that we're trying to cover with these corrugated panels. So we'll update everybody as we go forward on that. That is one of the top priority things we are working on because we are in hurricane season. So we need to have an answer. The other thing too is we have a draft plan we're going to start circulating as it gets a little more final of exactly what our plan is if a hurricane is coming. You know, what day we put the panels on, what day we alert owners to this issue, how quickly we do this. We'll have a whole time frame plan that will tell us what we're going to do as a hurricane approaches. Okay, great. All right, the next, we are moving into new business. no, that was new business, old business, old business. All right, so under old business, we actually have two topics. Jim, do you want to start talking about the custom paint final invoices and the need for our last special assessment on building 5?
Yeah, I can talk about that. I think everybody's aware, Custom finished up with Building 5 in March, I think about the third week of March. They were slow in sending in a final invoice, so was Velocity. I actually received Velocity's final invoice June 30th. But all through this project, I've maintained an Excel spreadsheet listing invoices when received from both Custom and Velocity, and also for special assessments, and keeping a running tab on each building as to whether it has credits or debits coming. Of course, buildings 1 through 4 have been done for some time. That's finalized. Building 5, we received the final invoices in June. I've entered it up, so that it has a negative balance per owner of $12,621. Linda Wash had pointed out there's some demobilization charges in there that basically we get charged for people to leave our site. So I went back through the invoice, through the daily manpower lists, calculated out what the costs actually were to demobilize, and then credited Building 5. Initially, Building 5 had been charged for all that. It was in their final invoice. But they ended up paying 1/5 of that. The balance was spread over buildings 1 through 4. So demobilization was equally shared by all 5 buildings. Now, when I did that, I went back in 2021, there was a mobilization charge that was paid for by buildings 1 and 2. Since I'd shared the cost for demobile, I also shared the cost for mobile. So buildings 3, 4, and 5 ended up picking up a cost for that. 1 and 2 got credit, and also paint. When we started building 3, we got a 30% cost increase thrown at us for paint, so we made a bulk payment. Building 3 paid for that. Now I've shared that over buildings 3, 4, and 5. So there's some adjustments to what 3, 4, and 5 ended up, the final balance ended up being. But that has been taken care of. Linda was concerned about that. That should address her question. So now we have, every building has a slight negative or positive balance, except for Building 5, which has a large, they haven't paid for that, basically the final work done over the last couple of months. That's gonna have to be addressed in some manner. My proposal is we just keep a running tab of where we are on this stuff. We know that we're gonna have other credits or debits for all the buildings. We've got roofs that are gonna have to be paid for. There's gonna be some paint credits coming, I think, from LHR for buildings 3, 4, and 5. I'd like to just use this as a starting point going forward. We'll keep a running tab, we'll keep a decent accounting so that people can see where you were when you finished the custom work and then how things are being adjusted as we move forward. I haven't discussed this with Paul, but I have to make sure that we don't run into a balance issue.
Yeah, we need to talk about it a little bit in detail, Jim, so that we're
Yeah.
allocating correctly to each building and not getting
Yeah.
things too muddy, yeah.
But the big thing is, yeah, Building 5, yeah, they owe some assessment, and we'll have to determine how much. I've sent that final tab to both Marilyn and Paul. We'll come up with what that final assessment's gonna be to the owners, and we'll move forward from there.
And we will probably, as we have done in the past, Jim, I assume, we haven't talked about this yet, but I assume we're gonna do this. That final assessment on Building 5 will be spread over a number of months. And we'll probably have to have that special assessment meeting, I would assume, relatively soon, the next month or so. But you'll receive notice of that.
Yeah, you're gonna need a large chunk of that moving
Yeah.
forward. It totals right now, that building's like $908,000, behind schedule in debt, so, yeah, we need to pick up most of that.
Okay,
Write
thank you,
down
Jim.
that number, Di.
Yep,
All right, Linda, you had a single question on this issue? Where's Linda?
She's not here.
Oh, she's not
She's
here.
on the Zoom.
Linda, are you on Zoom?
Yes, I am.
There you are, yes, okay. You had a
Hi,
single.
good morning. So,
Linda, can you start with your name and your unit number and then limit it to one question? I know you have multiple questions, which we're happy to try and cover in the owner's question section at the end. But if you have your most important question you'd like to raise at this point, that would be great.
okay, it's Linda Wash, Unit 5306. Yes, I do have multiple questions regarding custom paint. I thought I had 3 minutes.
Well, yes, but only one question because we're limiting it so that all owners have an opportunity to ask questions during the meeting. We're happy to continue to answer multiple questions during the owner question period after the adjournment. And of course, the board members are always available after we unconvene.
Okay, well then, I certainly have multiple questions and I want to take the floor at some point. So if I have to pick one question,
Thank you.
that is going to be, who is going to provide both the wind and flood paint insurance claim billing to forensic accountants? Right now, it's all focused on wind per Jim's analysis, which totals $1.6 million was misbilled to owners. There's also a flood claim, and I actually found them recently, and I can send those to Paul, because there seems to be issues with where to find them, and I found them in a document that's 196 pages long. So flood also needs to be investigated, because custom paint was allowed to bill owners
Linda?
$1.6 million. This is my run-on question, it's one question.
It's all, okay, go ahead.
I'm a run-on talker. So custom paint was allowed to bill $1.6 million to owners. We need to investigate if they also did that for flood. So my deck question is, who is going to provide the flood information to forensic accountants? Jim says he was not involved, so I've been researching it and I haven't. So who's going to provide flood?
I appreciate that, Linda, and I'll go ahead and answer this question if it's okay, Paul. The source documents that we are providing to the forensic accountants are the original source documents that that the complex received concerning all of the insurance invoices. So, as we've talked about before, Linda, and I know you and I have talked about this extensively offline, any information that an owner has that they would like to send to the board, please feel free to. We are happy to receive all information that you think might be relevant. We are forwarding on to the forensic accountants the appropriate source documents for them to do their analysis. But yes, Linda, if you have something, feel free to send it. Thanks very
Well, I
much.
did send it to you, you didn't forward it to them.
As a follow-up, Linda, I went through and I actually went through the entire 196-page document, and I created a spreadsheet, and that has been passed along to the accountants also. Now, the spreadsheet did not have every single line item on it, but it had the line items on it that I thought were in question, and the paint was on there, on all the buildings. So they have that document also.
Okay, well, Paul, I will send you the info. I spent a lot of time on that. Let's tell him, I'm gonna send it to Paul, okay?
Okay,
It
thank
has
you.
not been forwarded.
Thank you, Linda, we appreciate it. As I say, we'll have more time later in the meeting to do additional questions. Thanks. All right, our next topic is our phase 1 update, as well as our roofing RFP update, both of which will be handled by Gordon, in whichever order you'd like.
Yeah.
Thank you, Gordon.
Let me start with the main project and the description of the scope. I received the construction drawings for the scope of work on June 27th. So the yellow area is what we are working on. There are 6 contractors that have been invited to submit proposals. And let me just get to that, if you request
Just
for
for phase
proposal.
one, excuse me.
Phase one work,
Phase
yes.
one.
Phase
Phase
one
one
update.
work only.
Okay,
Kern Young Construction, Heatherwood Construction, Build, Connor Gaskins, D. Garrett Construction, and Enviro Struct. The three that have a check mark beside it have already confirmed their interest and will be providing proposals. I have not heard from the other three yet, but expect to in the next day or so. So that RFP is already basically to the market. If I could just show you what I'm referring to. So this is the property restoration phase one. Invitation, project description, there's a lot of information in there, which also includes a link to all of the documents that go with the contract. This is, the basis of the contract will be a lump sum contract. And the typical approach to that, there will probably be some allowances that will be needed inside that lump sum contract. But we'll work that out. But those, the dates for receipt of proposals are August 12th. There's about a 3-day window of time that we're gonna work through scope review and confirmation, and a notice to proceed August 18th with the work. There's not a lot of long-term or long lead materials that relate to this scope, which is everything that everybody's seen, and that's what Marilyn spoke about, which we expect to be in the $1.7 million range. Simultaneously, as was discussed, you know, there's an RFP to the marketplace right now. That is for the replacement of all of the roofs. We actually have a pre-bid with those bidders rates in this room later today. And bids are due on the 23rd of July for that scope as well, so that we will see, you know, that information. Schedule-wise, everybody wants to know, so this has been updated based upon the receipt of the construction drawings on the 27th. Each of the proposers for the phase one work will provide their own schedule. But they are certainly aware that the selection of the contractor will heavily depend upon who has the most aggressive schedule as well, in making sure that we get through all of the work prior to Thanksgiving. That is the intent. Do we still have permit issues? We're down to a few items, but City of Bonita, we have a list of those items, but it doesn't prevent us from replacing sidewalks and walkways and stairs and doing repair work. The only big issue within that approval of the development order is there's plumbing involved, and therefore plumbing, meaning underground drainage. That's the part that we have to have that permit approved so that that work can go in and get inspected along the way. We just got that letter, which is our third letter from the City of Bonita on the 27th of June. And I think that sort of gives us an update of kind of where that package is at, and we'll keep everybody posted along the way.
And I will remind everybody that the information that Gordon was showing you today, the project plan, the list of costs, the items that are going to be worked on for phase one, has all been loaded up on the website and will be updated with his version that he discussed today as well, so all owners can keep track of that work and the timetable as we go forward. Okay. All right, I think that is it for our board meeting. I want to go ahead and adjourn the board meeting. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Jim?
Yeah, Jim Crasher, I make the motion.
Second?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye?
Aye.
All those
Aye.
opposed? All those opposed say nay? Okay, great. So the board meeting's adjourned. We can stop the recording. Glenn? Or whoever's handling the Zoom?